You're listening to the Fanboy Garage Podcast.
And welcome to this special edition of the Fanboy Garage. So, full disclosure, we are not actually going to have a new episode for you guys next week. So, we're doing this special edition here because we did have to address this Wonder Woman 84 news. So, that's why we're doing this little brief special edition here. And of course, I'm joined by my co hosts, Vanessa.
Hello.
And Aaron Varola.
Oh, you heard the sound? What's going on, folks? Welcome to the special edition. Wait, hold on, let me see it do it again.
I can't take you seriously.
I stole, for those of you guys that are not watching us right now on YouTube, I crept into my daughter's bedroom and stole her little Wonder Woman gauntlets, which are like 18 sizes too small for my sausage wrists. So yeah, so welcome to this special edition. We're not gonna drop an episode for Thanksgiving, so this is the one that you're gonna get. These things are choking my wrists.
Still making the noise.
I know. I'm gonna move them off to the side so that they don't cling.
I'm dead.
I was like, God forbid if
Putting
they
a piano.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're like super sensitive, and it's kind of cute because my son is all about the lightsaber and she's all about the gauntlets, and so she's
Man,
like,
kids have like the coolest like superhero toys nowadays. If I had that when I was a little kid, forget about it.
yeah.
With sound effects.
Yeah, that's so cool. I used to have this like little rifle and I pretend like I was Rambo, and it would look legit. It was like a wooden rifle. So yeah, that is the 80s. You can't walk out into the street with shit like that.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I had one of those too, actually.
yeah, and they're cool, right? And they didn't have like the little orange tip on it to say like fake. It was like, nah, this thing was like a legit metal and wood.
Yeah.
Like little cap gun.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Anyways, so Wonder Woman 1984. Holy cow. We were just talking about this on the previous episode, and lo and behold, HBO Max is like, not only are we sticking to the December date, but we are going to simultaneously release Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max for free.
Right. And I'd like to think I had something to do with this. I'd like to think
It's all your fault, man.
my begging, pleading, pandering since May for this to happen is what ultimately led to that decision. But no, I mean, it was shocking because as much as I wanted it to happen, like I wanted to be able to watch Wonder Woman 84 from my living room on, if not Christmas Day, like that weekend anyway. But even with that, I'm not surprised that they're doing like the hybrid release. I'm not surprised that it's being released streaming and in theaters, especially now, where we see where things are, states are starting to shut things down, and, it doesn't look like it's going to be a lot of movie theaters open, probably, at least in the major markets, especially on Christmas Day. But the shocking thing is that it's on HBO Max for no additional cost. Like the idea that it was going to be released on HBO Max on the same day as it releases in theaters, but for no additional cost, was something that I didn't even think would be a thing. Like I expect to be paying for it. And I mean, don't tell Warner Media this, but I was willing to pay $30 on top of HBO Max subscription to get access to it. And no, they're just like, there you go. Like it'll be in theaters wherever they're available. And obviously, around the world, it'll be available in theaters. But here in the US, where HBO Max is a thing, you're going to get it at no additional cost.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. And when you think about the fact that there's 38 million HBO subscribers in the US right now, right? And that includes people who have it through their cable or satellite provider or an over-the-top streaming service, or have HBO. There's 8.3 million people in that number that have HBO Max activation specifically. But there's also some, I mean, and Disney Plus has this too, but there's also some free customers, like people who have certain AT&T services.
Right, the bundles.
HBO Max for free. So within that 38 million number, you're talking about there's free subscribers, there's all kinds of things. So financially, I mean, look, who am I to argue with them, right? It's their movie, it's their business, but it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense what they're doing,
Right.
unless they expect this thing to just like maybe double. Like their
It also tells me maybe they don't have the premium model set up. Maybe I don't.
I mean, but how
Like,
hard is that to? I mean,
I don't. Yeah, I have no idea. Like, when I read that news for free, I'm like, wait, did I for real? Like, you guys are
Warner Media is like, yeah, just Venmo us at Warner Media.
they're just like, oh, you guys need something? There you go. It's free it up for you guys.
Yeah.
It's I think it's the best case scenario that are for people that are championing for VOD and just this new model, right? Like you're getting a new release right on HBO Max. I do wonder, to your point, if we're gonna see an uptick in subscribers for Wonder Woman specifically. But with 38 or 30 whatever million subscribers already, I can't I'm sure there's gonna get a bump. I'm sure there's gonna be a bump, but I don't know if it's gonna be like so significant or substantial.
well, the 38 million is total HBO, right? So we know that
Right.
those it's 8.3 actually have HBO Max activations.
So-
So that means that there's about 30 million people that have access to that have HBO that have not activated HBO Max for whatever reason. Some people I know personally, a couple people that don't have HBO Max activations that have HBO because it's not now it's finally available on Amazon Fire Sticks, but it's still not available on Roku. They don't have a Samsung Smart TV that it's available on or whatever. So like they can't even get HBO Max.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say, that, it's already on Fire Stick now. So I actually think you're going to see a jump in subscribers. And if you're living in a city where you can have the option, to go to the movie theaters, where movie theaters are open in your city and you can go, to see it, or you're going to watch it at home and subscribe and get a whole month of content. I mean, for $14.99 a month, that's kind of like the easy choice, unless you're really a big buff about seeing it, on the big screen.
And there are plenty of those. So I think this news brought me full force back onto social media to see what the heck are people saying? What are they talking about related to this? And there are a lot of people that are anti VOD. They are, this is a movie that's only meant to be seen on the big screen. Well, false.
Because most people will, and those people included, those people will watch this movie more on small screen.
Yeah, afterwards. Anyways. And then and look, I get it, because it's another signal to the theater chains that your relevance is slipping. You know what I mean? The appeal for the movie going experience is slipping tremendously. And in these circumstances, studios have to make a call. Ron Diesel and a couple of others have talked about the marketing dollars that have already been dumped into supporting this film, promoting this film, and it's all gone nowhere. They've changed the date multiple times, which means that they are paying designers and graphic artists to to insert new copy. That's billable time. So there's a lot of money that was being spent, and so they're just like, I'm sure they're gonna get some money, on the back end. Like, obviously, look, with theaters, HBO Max does not have an international play. So whatever theaters are available, overseas, I'm sure you'll get a bump there. It's not going to see the kind of money that I would have expected it to see, obviously, because it's not going to be in the theaters and it's not going to have that blockbuster $1 billion, sort of pull. But it will be interesting to keep a very close eye with, again, how it does in subscribers and what kind of money HBO or Warner Media makes as a bigger pool.
I think now, though, too, it's like we've been so many months into the pandemic. At first, the idea of theaters closing and like shutting down and like we're not going to get any releases and what's going to happen to all of these movies, those were like big shockers and things that like we couldn't even fathom or imagine. And I feel like we've just gotten a little bit like used to the norm, right? Like the new normal is that dates are going to shift and we don't know what's going to come out. I think Tenet probably should have done the hybrid model, but back then they just weren't used to doing anything like that. So they didn't. And
Warner learned.
And Warner kind of like learned from it. And now I think as people are like getting used to it, it's kind of like, all right, yeah, that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to adjust. And I know people are upset, you know, they feel like it's made for that and all the marketing dollars have gone into it. But this way it kind of appeases both parties and I think it's a win-win for them. They're going to gain subscribers. People are going to see it if they want to go see it. But either way, you have every avenue available for people to go see your film. That's the point.
100%. And the one thing I'll say here is that we are in a place now where we have been outside of Tenet. Movies have largely been absent because there was, you know, or Bill and Ted, there hasn't been much of a move here to show new stuff. We're getting into the territory where everything that had been pushed from earlier in this year is kind of like on, you know, it's at bay, and you know, we're trying to figure out, what does it get released in the winter? Does it get released in the spring? They needed to release Wonder Woman. They needed to. I think audiences need Wonder Woman. And I like, we need new content. We need something to like feel good. And Wonder Woman is the first blockbuster film. And I'm going to put Tenet aside because I don't think Tenet would have, even in the most optimal situations, I do not think Tenet would have made the amount of money that Wonder Woman would have made in theaters. Wonder Woman is the blockbuster movie that we've all been waiting for. I think it is the blockbuster movie that will redefine our experiences moving forward. And you know, I in terms of like where we are as a society, I think it's time. I think we need this movie, like, badly.
I understand where both of you guys are coming from on this, right? But and there's no bigger proponent of streaming than me, right? And I obviously there was no one who was looking forward to having this movie available streaming more than I was. However, just from a pure business sense, I still just don't think this makes sense. Like, I still think you could have accomplished the same thing, right? So, because we're talking two different issues, right? The idea of Wonder Woman being available in our homes on Christmas Day, weekend, whatever, is great. But doesn't it make more sense to try to take your shot at making this a premium video on demand option to see what the market is for that? Like, this movie is your perfect movie. This is bigger than Mulan. It's bigger than this is the biggest movie that you're going to have this year, bigger than Trolls or any of those other movies that they did. This would have been the ultimate test. If you are going to put this thing up on a streaming service, like, here's your test to see where we're at with this concept of like, because you can't just keep throwing these movies up for free on your streaming services. I mean, unless because eventually even the most successful streaming services are going to hit a point where they're not adding enough customers, like new subscribers, for it to be worth it relative to what the movie would have made like in the theatrical model. So, and the budgets. But I just think that there was a way probably for Warner Media to still get this into people's homes on Christmas Day and make money off of it, whether it was licensing it out to somebody, whether it was making it available on Amazon or Vudu or, you know, whatever, for a traditional premium on demand, or creating a tier. And I mean, you had mentioned, Aaron, earlier about like, well, maybe they weren't set up for it, but Warner Media owns BR Live, right? Bleacher Report Live, which is where like the AEW pay-per-view. Right. So they already have an infrastructure that allows someone to go on an app, on a Roku, or on a website and purchase live content or streaming content. So they could have used, so it's there. The infrastructure is there for them to have made this a premium on demand. And then you give it a couple of weeks or even a month to see how it's doing. And if it's not doing particularly well,
then you do it for free.
Then you could still throw it up on your streaming service for free. Like, I don't know why you would automatically go with like, we talked about it with Mulan, right? When we were talking about pricing and how, people were like, oh, that price point might be a little high for something like that. And it was like, well, you're better off starting high, because if you start high and it doesn't do well, you could lower the price and then it seems like you're giving people a deal. But if you start low, now you can't go higher, because now it's like, oh, look, they're already raising their prices. So now Warner Media is starting low. They're starting free.
Right.
So like, now have they ruined any chance that they may have ever had to get people to pay extra for a movie like this in the future, if that becomes their model? And
That's
just like,
totally
it's like,
fair.
what happens if this doesn't spike subscriptions for them?
Yeah.
I
And
think
as far as the theaters go, like, who knows how many theaters are even going to be open on Christmas Day? It's possible it's not going to be even many. So, I mean, they may. This is a huge risk, I think. I don't know.
I think two things. I think maybe perhaps this is a Christmas gift to all of us, which, I would like to look at it that way. But I think secondly, business standpoint, it doesn't seem like the right business move, but perhaps they're thinking of the long run. Perhaps they're thinking of all the subscription money they're going to make from people that, are going to sign up and continue paying month to month for the subscription, instead of someone just paying $30 to watch a movie but not keep the subscription. They kind of lose that chance to get that person back again. Like in sales, you kind of have to like hook them once, and then they're in. It's hard to get them to come back again. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm thinking maybe that's their idea, is that we'll make the money. And we haven't talked about international box office yet, but if it seems like most theaters are open internationally. Wonder Woman did exceptionally well internationally last time. So maybe they're banking on those numbers. And then for the US, they're banking on the long game, which is getting subscribers. And, if they don't, they'll chalk it up to just the times that we're in, but if they do, and they get a loyal fan base and people that use HBO Max and will go to HBO Max over other, streaming services, then win-win.
Yeah. I mean, Wonder Woman, I think the first Wonder Woman did about the same overseas, right? It was almost like an even split, right? It was like 400, something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so now assuming, obviously, we know the overseas theaters it's not going to do that, right? Because there's less of them right now. There's less screenings because of restrictions and all of that.
And they're closing as well.
And
their major markets are closing as well.
Okay.
So you figure it's probably going to make less than it would have under normal circumstances. And that's another part of this, why it's so surprising to me that they do it. See, like, I think as far as the subscription part goes, like, yeah, you definitely want to give people, like, to me, like Zack Snyder's Justice League, that's a great way to try to draw in subscriptions, right? Because that's something that's like a unique product that's dedicated just for that streaming service. All of the marketing is based around the fact that it's going to be on the streaming service. Like, that type of stuff is what I would use, like, for quote unquote free to lure subscribers. But like something like this, like if you do what Disney did, so what Disney did with Mulan, you still needed the Disney Plus subscription to get it. But you paid extra for it. And there were people that they did see an increase in subscriptions because now that could have just been circumstantial or whatever, but like, it's a thing. So, because for me, I just wonder, because I'm like, the 38 million people that have HBO right now. So even if you have, so let's say you have 8.3, whatever million people that have HBO Max activations right now, but there's 38 million people. So there's another like 30 million people that have HBO that I guess could, if they needed to, activate HBO Max. So even if like 20 million of those people activate HBO Max and watch Wonder Woman, they haven't made anything, because those people are already,
you're not paying any extra money
for HBO. And on top of that, you do have you have some freeloaders. So in that 8.3 million HBO new activations that they had in the last quarter, like, there's some freeloading in there. Again, they all do it. That's fine. But I don't know, man. I just
sharing of passwords.
Well, that's always going to be an issue. Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the concerns, just like piracy and anything else that these studios will have to work around. I'm thinking long game here. Like, like for me, while I know the future of this stuff is this is going to be the future, right? Or a major part of the future. I don't know that when I thought of like the future of like movies and TV, like I don't know that like making movies, putting all of your big budget movies like on your streaming services at no additional cost was really like where I thought anything would be going.
Right.
And I still don't think that that's where it's going. So I'm not really sure exactly. I don't know. I'm just like still look, I'm excited. It's great. It is it's a great PR move, if anything, you know, but
Yeah.
I
We'll
don't know.
see.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it is, you know, they're all watching each other, right? Like clearly HBO Max took a look at what Disney did and said, okay, we have to try something different. And in turn, Disney will do the same, and they'll watch and go, we'll see how many subscribers you guys get off of your release, because we've got our superhero female, you know, Black Widow, who we've been holding. So we'll see how that goes. Because you know, who knows if that will end up being a lower priced premium movie for Disney Plus. The bigger question for me in this conversation, and Chris, I agree. I mean, I think the premium model would have made them a shit ton of money. But I also wonder if holding stuff, or do, you know, kind of continuing to kind of navigate how they would have formulated the release of Wonder Woman was hurting them financially. Like, again, pushing it. Who knows if they had set a date for Blu-ray sales or other things like that they were now pushing up against, and so it wouldn't have made. I don't, you know, I'm just kind of throwing out hypotheticals here.
Well, I'm actually glad you mentioned that because I didn't even think of that. But that hurts too, right? Because
they got to split that money.
Well, here's the thing, though. And we don't know the answer to this yet, but like Wonder Woman being on HBO Max for free, like how long is it going to be up there for? Like they haven't said, right?
Oh, no, I think they did. I think it was a month.
A month. Okay, perfect. So people who've had a chance to watch it for a month, but you know it's going to be back on HBO Max, right? Eventually.
Yeah.
So like, how does that affect like the Blu-ray market, the DVD, but that's a very niche thing right now. So your people who buy digital movies and stuff, that's less niche now than it used to be, but it's still kind of a niche thing because everyone knows eventually, well, this thing will be on HBO Max sooner or later. So like, why am I going to buy it? Because I already watched it at home. I've watched it 10 times. Because again, it's different. When a movie's in the theater, you go to see it. I'm not, you know, people see movies multiple times when it's in a theater, but like you could watch this every day for a month if you wanted to. So by the time, you know, after a month, like you may have seen it, you're going to have seen this movie potentially way more times than you would have if it was in the theaters.
Right.
And so like, how is that going to affect? So like once it comes out on Blu-ray video, it's like, oh, you know what? I can wait. I've seen it 30 times already. I'll wait another 2-3 months for it to come back on HBO Max and then watch it again.
Right.
That's why it's just kind of it's just a fascinating way to do it. Look,
but
something, who knows?
But I mean, but then think about it like this, like going back to the subscriber thing. If you really, really want to see that movie and you don't have HBO Max, you're gonna pay for HBO Max, right?
Yeah.
And so they have you there. So you're spending $14.99? I don't remember.
Yeah.
So $14.99. All right. That's pretty much the cost of a movie ticket. And then they hope that maybe you forgot that you had your subscription, you're gonna get logged into something else, and you're, you know, a customer for life. I don't know if they were to if I were going to purchase it and I go, do I wait for this to come out on Blu-ray and then I go buy the Blu-ray or I buy a VOD? I'm going to have to pay more money for it because that's typically like a $19.99 thing, right? So maybe it's more cost effective for the person who's trying to buy the content to just get the subscription. And then by that point, they have your money in bank anyway. So, you know, again, maybe they were looking at like our numbers are kind of in reality, their numbers are low in comparison to other streaming services. they're looking at it as anyone who is on the fence or has been kind of playing around with whether or not they should get HBO Max or convert. It's nice to get the conversion, but it's great to get new subscribers. Hopefully people stick around.
Yeah.
And then you've got, Zack Snyder stuff, and then who knows if what other stuff they've got in the hopper to potentially entice people to stay or subscribe.
It's fascinating because HBO Max added like 4.5 million subscribers, right? Like in the second half of this year. So that's how they get to that 8.6 million is the number, not 3. But like, so if you multiply that by 15 million, that's $67.5 million or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many subscribers do we think are going to sign up for HBO Max just to act this movie? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
It gets really, I don't know. It's hard to figure, like, I don't know.
Chris is lost. I
think 4.5 million, like even if at 4, you got to have like, you'd have to have a significant bump. Whereas if you had this thing up for like $30,
oh yeah, you're cashing in.
I guess what I'm saying is you have 38 million people that have potentially access to this, and an 8.6 million that have direct access to it as of now, right? So, like, how many more people on top? Those people were paying for this service, whether Wonder Woman 84 was there or not, right? So you can't consider any of that money that this movie is generating. So, like, you want to look at specifically how many people subscribe to HBO Max from like December 20, like around December 25th through the end of the month. And then let's assume then that can be revenue that can be attributed to Wonder Woman 84. But the other thing is, like, how does this affect, like, I mean, we're talking like the production company. Like, how does this affect like the people who rely on like the receipts for this movie to, like, you know what I mean? To make because like Warner Media, it's Warner, but it's the studio, whatever. But like, there's still other entities involved in this, right?
Yeah,
that get their percentage.
Yeah, this movie is
or get their points. That in their contract.
Yes.
It
totally
feels
red.
It seems like, I get what you're saying, Chris. Like it seems like they've already kind of resigned to the fact that it's a wash, like this year is a wash of a year for movies. But then why not try this, charging people, $30 and making back that red? Because they can. They can. But I think, I don't know. I now that we're talking about it, I mean, the Christmas gift idea, that's not a good theory.
No. I mean, I think there's some validity to that, though.
Very well be something.
Yeah, because I mean, it's something for, like, if you think about it, if you're already a subscriber for HBO Max, you're like, this is a score. I have a month. I have a month to check out Wonder Woman. Meanwhile, it'll still go into theaters in some capacity. Who knows what deals they may have struck for the VOD paid thing, for folks that don't have HBO Max and maybe just rely on Apple TV or whatever. They're going to pay $20 to see this movie too. So I don't, we don't know what's going to come at the back end of that 1 month after it's free for us. But again, at the end of the day, to your point, it's only 30 something million people, or not even, it's 8 million people who are going to see this movie for free.
Right. And the other thing is, because the number that we have to look at is how many people it's not even about HBO Max activations, because you could still have a chunk of that, like 30 million people that have HBO that have not activated HBO Max. They're not helping.
No, they're not. No, and they're not going to be able to see the movie.
Right. And well, not only that, but even if they activated HBO Max to watch the movie, they're paying the same. They're already paying the $15 or whatever for it. It's one price. They've just bundled it all together. So you're talking about adding people. Like, you have to add X amount of new HBO Max / HBO subscribers in significant numbers for this to help. But again, clearly, I think like Vanessa was saying, the studio must just be like, whatever. It's
So
interesting you would do it with this movie of all movies, but they're just probably like, let's just see if we could get some good PR. Let's give a gift to our fans and let's see what it does for the service, if anything.
probably. So let me ask a dumb question. When you have HBO, you get HBO Max, right?
You do now, yeah.
Does the flip happen? The flip side for the new subscribers to HBO Max, do they also get HBO? Like HBO?
So the way it works is HBO. So when you had HBO, there used to be two streaming services.
Yeah, I have that.
Go, right? Which
Mhm.
HBO Go was like the streaming on demand. If you had an HBO subscription, you could use your credentials to log into HBO Go and watch that stuff.
Yeah, it's tied into your cable
Yeah.
provider.
Then there was HBO Now, which was
Which
the
I was.
standalone streaming version of HBO. So if you didn't have or you didn't want to get HBO through a cable or satellite provider, you bought, basically it was like buying HBO on your own for $15. HBO,
That was actually $11.99.
well, it got to be 15 though at
Yeah.
some point, didn't it?
Well, so for me, because I was an HBO Now subscriber at $11.99, I was able to keep that price when I converted to HBO Go
Yeah.
or HBO Max. Sorry.
Yeah, because now HBO like is pretty standard $15 across the board. Like if you
Right.
want to add HBO to like your Hulu Live or your Sling TV or whatever, it's $15. So for the most part, and it costs usually $15 to add it to your cable or satellite bill. So they that's why they settled on that price. But what happened was when HBO Max became a thing, they said, well, it doesn't make sense to have a million different streaming services. So essentially HBO Max now has become what HBO Go was, like on steroids, because it's
Right.
like now if you have HBO, because there were already 30 some million HBO subscribers, so you're not going to make those people double dip. So they basically said, okay, if you have HBO either through HBO Now like Aaron, or through your cable or satellite provider, we're not going to charge you again for HBO Max. We're getting rid of HBO Go, and now you can just get HBO Max. It has all of the HBO content, like all the video on demand content, all of that stuff, but it has also all this other stuff extra.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how that's how it fits into this whole.
Yeah,
It
the
was
app,
it was
the
very
app changed.
Yeah, it was very confusing for me in the beginning because I had HBO Go, but then I use Fire Stick. So when it wasn't available on Fire Stick, I kind of just gave up on HBO Max. My boyfriend's been watching it, but on his laptop, and I didn't do that. And now that it's on Fire Stick, I think 2 days ago, I have to download it and see. But I was just curious for the people that are newly subscribing, because I didn't like the transition. I didn't like how confusing it was in the beginning to have all three of these HBO things and you just didn't know what was going on. So
Yeah,
I'm glad they cleared it up.
so I'm an Apple. So I have I've got a Samsung Smart TV, a Roku Smart TV, and Apple TV.
Ew.
And so for Apple TV, I got an update and it basically turned HBO Go into HBO Max, and that just went away. On Roku, because HBO Max is not there, it is still HBO Go, and I get a lot of the content, but the interface, the way that things are laid out with tiles and things like that, doesn't exist until that deal is struck. I would hope for Roku and HBO's sake that they lock that deal before Wonder Woman drops, because those are just additional eyes that will check the movie out, and maybe that'll do something to their numbers. But I think for me the transition from HBO Go was fairly seamless as it moved into HBO Max, but I could totally get how you essentially have to, three different app interfaces that two are very similar, one is very different, and then you don't know how to get one or the other. It's
And now HBO Now is just HBO.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So on my Roku, it's HBO. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there's a difference. Obviously, if you have HBO, you're just getting the HBO content, but
Right.
HBO Max gives you that and all the other fun stuff, like Wonder Woman 84, for instance. So yeah, that's how that works. It's something also that's kind of related. I don't know if you saw this, but Universal Studios remember the company that all
Yeah.
the theater chains were going to be boycotting because they had the gall to say that, our Trolls movie did really well and this could be
Yeah.
a future thing. Well, so they just struck another deal with Cinemark this time.
Oh,
So now any Universal film starting next year that doesn't open to $50 million or higher, it'll be able to go to premium video on demand after 17 days.
wow.
And
so
if a movie does make 50 million or higher, then it'll still be able to go to premium video on demand within a month.
that's cool that they're kind
And
of
they're
like,
going to share the Cinemark like with the AMC deal. That's
yeah.
although it's a little different.
No, I was gonna say the AMC deal is just a 17-day window.
It is. Yeah. So I guess Cinemark they haggled a little.
Right.
But they and I believe Cinemark they own Regal. I think. I mean, they own theaters across the
Yeah.
world. I think here Regal is their prime.
That's so weird that
So
that's bizarre.
they're basically and they're going to be getting a cut like AMC is.
Yeah, look at the splits.
So that's where when I mentioned on the last show, and I've mentioned it before, when I talk about how these theater chains better start getting creative before they're obsolete, is these are ways that they can work for now, at least anyway, work with these studios to be more open to at least making some money on, it's not going to last forever. I mean, at some
studios are being so gracious though in this. The studios are being so gracious to the
I guess,
chains,
right. They really don't have to.
Because they don't have to. And I mean, the word that stuck out to me was premium, right? So it's like, yeah, it'll be in theaters for 17 days exclusively.
Right.
Until you have to pay for it on our streaming service.
Well, premium video on demand basically just means like Vudu.
Yeah, Vudu, like Apple TV, whatever. But you pay for it anyways. So it's like, it's gonna be interesting to see if you pay to rent or you pay to own. Hopefully it's you pay to own.
Yeah.
Own. Yeah.
That's an interesting deal, especially since they capped it at a certain amount of money.
Well, I mean, they're basically for this Cinemark thing. It's basically saying the blockbuster films.
They're saying Fast and Furious will be yours for quite.
They'll have it for a month, which is where by a month movies have made most of their money.
Yeah,
essentially. And then the movies that whatever. I mean, look, a movie that opens to $50 million that's pretty good. But the rest of the movies will have 17 days, which is going to be the majority of your movies right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess listen, this was the second deal, so
yeah,
you guys had the advantage of having seen what the first deal was like to work around. But I mean, look, the theaters have to do something. I mean, you're right that the studios are being generous because they could have basically just said like, we have the control here because we're controlling the future, not you. Right? They're not controlling the future of this. They're the ones who are like, what are we going to do? What are our options? We got to try to figure out a way to make some money here. And, if the studios decide, forget it, like we don't need you, they could have done that very easily.
Yeah, it seems like the studios still believe fundamentally, that movies are supposed to be watched on the big screen, sure. And that there is a difference between going to the movies and seeing a movie on a big screen than the little screen in your home.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of movies that don't translate well to the little screen. And I wonder how Wonder Woman, that's my dilemma right now is, am I going to see it on the big screen, where I am? Or am I going to watch it on my HBO Max subscription? Like, what do I want? If I'm not worried about being in a theater, but I see a lot more other people packed in other places than a theater where you're sitting, you're maybe in a row by yourself or at the end and skipping rows, I mean, it won't be that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I think, and I love the movies. I love going to the movies, but like I watched Superman, the movie for the first time at like my parents' friend's house on like what was probably like a 25-inch television. you know, on like his WHT box. Okay, we're going back now. Old, or maybe it was even his HBO box when it was literally a box and you put on your TV.
I didn't
Like,
even know.
and I thought it was the most amazing thing ever. And I have never seen Superman the movie on a big screen. I saw Superman 2 in theaters, but I've never seen Superman the movie on a big screen, and I still love it. Right. So it's one of my favorite movies. Like I mean, I think people, and now clearly we have better TVs, better sound systems, better everything at home. So I think that I think people will get used to it very quickly. Being able to watch, you know, I think there are certain elements that people will miss about the theater experience, but you know, we've pretty much gone a year now for the most part without really, we'll have gone probably more than a year without going to the movies. And it's just going to be interesting. We mentioned it last week. Like, what is that world going to look like if and when it's back?
We're living in it.
There's also something special, and it makes the project bigger when you see it on a big screen. Like, I feel like when you see things on the little screen, it's easy to forget about, you know? So like I don't know, like it might affect the fan base a little bit in a sense. Like when you go to the movies, you get really excited, especially if it's like a great, you know, blockbuster film. You get really excited. So I don't know.
I mean, I agree with you. You know, I go back to that Avengers Assemble scene because that's probably one of the most iconic recent moments where the entire theater just lost their shit, screaming,
Clapping,
yelping, clapping like that. There is nothing like that unless you're at a, you know, sports game or something like that where you are with your fellow human. Then that energy is a very real thing that you can feel like on your body. And that's a cool experience. And yeah, I definitely miss those moments. But I ain't gonna trade it for my health.
No, and you know,
what I mean? I ain't gonna. It's like, and in these circumstances, like I am very comfortable with like having that moment to take a step back and like soak in a movie as well, because I'm in the comfort of my own home.
Yeah.
Like and here's the most important piece of that experience. You ready for it? It's the pause button. I can pause it when I gotta go to the bathroom and not miss a damn thing, which is one of the biggest issues I've ever dealt with. I mean, it's like literally you're having mental warfare with your body. Like, I shouldn't have drank all that water before, or that or whatever. Oh my god, how much more can I take?
Well, the good news is when you're
no
4-ounce soda either.
I totally know what you're saying. I had 2 pints of beer before Avengers.
Oh right, yeah, I was with you, and then I didn't get to see the movie.
No, I went to see Endgame by myself.
Oh, sorry, oh, that's a shame.
With all the Marvel people. Because my friend knew someone, but he's like, I can only get you in, and I was like, man, I really want to see it early because I got a chance to see it early, but I don't want to see it by myself. But I was like, early, see it by yourself, see it before everyone else, see it with Marvel people. I was like, okay, whatever. We met with his friend. I bought him beers just to say thank you, and I had 2 beers. And while I was drinking, I was like, man, I should not be doing this. And sure enough, I held my piss for like 2.5 hours.
Yep. That's the worst. When it hits you like in the first 15 minutes, you're like, oh God.
No, it was like into the movie. And I was like, I'm fine. And it was like into the movie. I was like, oh man. So I had to hold it the whole time. It's the worst. Yeah.
Yeah. See that. And now that we're all home.
Yeah. Before assigned seating, it was also a risk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially if it would happen like right before the movie had to start.
Oh God!
And you'd have to wait for the movie to start.
Like fighting somebody.
Wasn't gonna steal your seat in the middle of it.
You're like, yo, I was sitting there. Like, you ain't now.
Yeah. Well, I'll be in New York by Christmas, hopefully. So I'll have to watch it on HBO Max.
Well, see, and then now there's more opportunities. We'll do a virtual episode, right, where we're all watching it together. No.
Yes.
That's gonna be so weird.
The second viewing, then.
There we go. Yeah, I know. Poor Thavo has been like, oh, let's watch The Mandalorian after episode 2. Kind of gave up on the group
Well,
watch because I'm watching it at like 7 o'clock in the morning.
4:30 in the morning, and
Yeah,
us at 6:30 in the morning to give us the update.
sorry.
We could, here's what we can do. We can record ourselves separately, like they do for 90 Day Fiance. We can record ourselves separately and our reactions to it, and then we can stitch it all together onto YouTube.
See, I'm gonna know that I'm on video, so you're gonna get like some reactions. They're gonna be like,
Oh,
look
you're
at
gonna
the
be
camera. You know what I mean? I'm be like, what the F is that? Why does Cheetah look like that?
I'm happy to say I don't get that 90 Day Fiance reference, thankfully. So
Yeah,
it's a reality show, guys.
I know what it is, but I'm happy to say.
All right.
Yeah, so that's all right. Let's get out of here. That was it's a special edition here to cover that Wonder Woman 84 news. We will be back with the official episode 122. What's the next?
122.
22. In I guess 2 weeks, right?
In the future.
In the future, some point. Who knows what news will be out at that time?
Yeah.
So, of course, don't forget to go to the fanboygarage.com, check out our episodes and our merch and stuff, and join the conversation. Yell at us, talk to us about Wonder Woman 84. What do you think about it? Do you, yes, thumbs up, thumbs down, not from a selfish fan sense, but from a business sense? Do you think this move makes sense? And how do you think it affects the future of theaters and studios and releases and all that fun stuff? Do that on the Facebook, the Instagram, and the Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at RealCLMighty.
You guys can find me at banana_TFG.
Oh, now it's not doing it. And you can find me at Ron Speaks. That is A_Ron Speaks. Thank you so much for listening to this special edition. We wish you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving, and we'll catch you guys in the next couple of weeks. Peace.